So, more of the challenges of cataloging graphic novels. So, one of the things that a lot of these academic articles were doing was they were identifying problems and asking how do we resolve them, just as much as um, more than offering a solution. Markham 2009 was a really interesting article because Portland State University received a collection from Dark Horse Comics um, of a variety of different comics. They were going to try to use them within the academic classroom. Particularly, a lot of them were comics that were translated into different languages. So this might appeal to someone who's learning Spanish or learning German or maybe even a language like modern day Greek. Um, but a couple issues came up. Number one, I hope this sheds a couple examples of this, but the comic book industry standards versus library rules were very, very different. And this meant that cataloging could be very challenging. One question that came up as people were cataloging: should we be accrediting the title or the author to the intellectual property creator? So, for example, Stan Lee for some Marvel characters like Spider-Man, or should we be accrediting the author? In this case, Neil Gaiman, the primary author. That came up. Another one is that this is, I think at the time that they were writing this, this was unique to Dark Horse Comics. I don't think that that is anymore. Um, there is something that they talked about called monographs versus serials. So monographs are this idea that a comic book comes out. I put three examples at the bottom. They have comic books that come out in limited editions. So I think the Star Wars Dark Empire one was 6 volumes, 6 editions, excuse me. I don't know about Red Sun, but I think it was about 4 or 5. And the same goes for Marvel 1602. So 6 editions, they turn them into these more durable books, but they also seem to play around with a storyline or a concept. And while it doesn't change the major storyline as much, it seems to do sometimes something different and unique, which I thought is always very interesting. However, much like what O English, Matthews, and Lindsay was talking about. Some things like Sin City have just a title rather than a number. Here, with monographs, they are usually independent storylines, and we don't have a number or a volume. What we have is Star Wars Dark Trilogy, Superman Red Sun, or Marvel 1602. So that can make these things very challenging. And when you're looking for something like the Marvel one, it could be in an entirely different area based off of the author or the subject matter itself. The other thing that I think is distinct from comics rather than graphic novels, often with graphic novels, we have one author, one storyline, and one author. Where with a comic book, rarely are these comic books, as you can see from Red Sun, or even with Marvel 1602, just by the names at the bottom. Rarely are comic books done by one person alone. And often we have anthologies as well. So there might be a whole team that gets one chapter in a very long book, or one story created in a book, but there is teams of authors, um, drawers, colorists, and other editors that make the final product possible. And these things make cataloging extremely difficult.